Typically, project plans are updated in line with your project's status reporting on a weekly basis, for example. And I recommend that you use the status date functionality to ensure MS project tracking is in line with your status reporting periods. Now again, this is where you need to be in touch with your project PMO, your program PMO and the group PMO to understand the reporting cycles. They are not always weekly, sometimes they're fortnightly and sometimes they are monthly. Irrespective, use the status date to ensure that your project progress tracking is in line with those reporting cycles. Now, for the purposes of this exercise, I have created this project plan you can see before you, and it's just a basic project. It's got 3 tasks and a milestone. So what I would ask you to do is to first of all freeze the screen and create a project plan exactly the same way that I've done here, with the same dependencies and the same resources. And also just to advise that each of those resources are charged at £10 per hour. So if you can do that, and then once you've done it, set your project start date to the 4th of July 2022, and then baseline your project plan. And then when you save it as MS Project Training hyphen part 4, then progress with slippage, which is what I'm going to do now. So now that you've done all those updates, let's talk about status date. So the status date specifies the status date, which is a date that you set rather than the current system date for reporting the time, cost, or performance condition of a project. Now, project uses the status date to perform earned value calculations, identify the complete through date in the update project dialog box, and place progress lines accordingly. If you set the status date to NA, then project will use the current system date on your computer as the status date. So I'm going to set the status date to the 8th of July 2022. And there are 2 ways to do that. Now, we can either go through the project information and set the status here, or again on the project ribbon, you can select status date here and you can set it to the 8th of July 2022 like I have. So we now have a status date. Now, if I go to the Gantt view, so I'm going to select the task ribbon, drop down and select the tracking Gantt view. I want to see the status date represented in my Gantt chart here on the right. So I'm going to right click on the Gantt chart. I'm going to choose grid lines. I'm then going to scroll down to status date and select it like so, and then I'm going to put a solid line as my line type, and I'm going to put green as my color like so, and I'm going to click OK. And now you can see my status date is now represented on the Gantt chart in green as a line. Now, every time you update progress or slippage within your project plan, ensure the status date is amended first to be in line with your as of reporting period. So for example, if I'm reporting on progress for week starting the 4th of July and I've got a weekly reporting cycle, then I would be completing my progress as of close of play Friday. So I would want project to consider the Monday to Friday schedule. And typically a project manager would be doing this either on a Monday morning, ready to complete their status report. So if I set my status date to the Friday date, which is the 8th of July 2022, that means then project will consider any progress etc. in line with that status date and my reporting period. Now, once I've set that status date, I'm going to click save here and save my project file. And you must do the same. And then I'm going to save it under a different file name once I've done that. So I'm going to go File, and I'm going to save it as MS Project Training Part 4, and this time call it Progress on Schedule, just so we've got two files that we can experiment with. So File, Save As, Training, and this time Progress on Schedule. So change this to on schedule. And click save. Our status date is now set and we're now ready to report our progress. Now, we are going to look at two scenarios reference reporting progress in our plan. The first is on schedule with no slippage, i.e. happy path, and the second is progress with slippage. But first, let me caution you. Let project do the work, especially on large, complex projects, i.e. do not micromanage tasks by manually trying to enter precise values like hours complete and hours remaining without running some type of integrated PPM tooling with timesheet functionality for your resources assigned to your project, because this will quickly become an unmanageable, impossible and tiring and exhausting task. So as I said, let project do the work. So in this scenario, in our project meetings, and we are reporting on a weekly basis, so we have to report progress between the Monday and close of play Friday. So in our project meeting, we've been informed that the project has progressed as scheduled. So in this scenario, this is how I would go about it in MS Project. So once you've set your status date, you will then go to the project ribbon and you will select update project. Now, as you can see, it has defaulted to the 8th of July, i.e. our status date, and I want project to update work as complete through from 0% to 100% whilst considering this status date. And I want it to look at the entire project, and I'm going to click OK. Now what you can see is that project has looked at all the tasks and it said, right, task number 1 is scheduled between the Monday and the Friday, so therefore it has completed it 100% for us without any additional work from ourselves. So wherever possible, macro manage your project and only micro manage those tasks that are not progressing as scheduled. So again, as I say, let MS Project do the work for you wherever possible so you can focus on delivering. So that's our first example. We've got 100% complete and you can see the tick sign to say that task has now been completed. But how do we handle a project that is slipping? So let's have a look at that one. So I'm going to save that and close it down. Now I've opened my MS Project Training Part 4 Progress with Slippage file, so I've opened that up. Now again, imagine the scenario in your project team meeting. So through your project meeting you have been informed that the project team has only made 50% progress on this week's scheduled tasks. So think about this. Some project plans can have thousands of lines, which makes it extremely hard to see the wood for the trees. So let's look at an example of how you can filter to help with this. On the view, I'm going to select filter, and I'm going to select more filters, and I'm going to look for should start / finish by. There we go, and select that, and I'm going to click apply. Now in the first dialog box it's asking me show task that should have started by, so I'm going to enter the 8th of July 2022 and click OK. And now it's asking me what date for task that should have finished by, so I'm going to enter the 8th of July 2022 again. And as you can see, Project has filtered my project plan to only those tasks, or in this instance the task that should have been completed by the 8th of July or should have been started by this point in time. And as I said before, this is a particularly useful piece of functionality in large plans. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this task 1, and on the task ribbon I'm going to set the percentage to 50, like so. And then on the task ribbon again, I'm going to select the icon move here, and on the drop down I'm going to select incomplete parts to status date. So if I select this, incomplete parts to status date, and as you can see, what Project has done is moved any work that's not been completed to after the status date. And if I remove my filter on the view, I can then see the impact on the rest of the project and the slippage. Or as long as you've gone through and entered the progress estimates that people have said to you, is then you can simply go into the project ribbon, say to project update, select reschedule uncompleted work to the start date. Instead of doing selected tasks, just take to look at the whole project and move any work that's not completed where it should have been, and you can click OK. And again, Project's picked up this particular task that it should have been done and it's moved it. Same result. That brings us to the end of this training series. Thank you for watching.